Hello and welcome to Crafting a Revolution, the podcast. My name is Katie Freeman, one of the hosts of the podcast. Every Wednesday and Friday, we bring you interviews of female and non-binary makers of all kinds from all over the world. Today's guest is Kirtan Tom, who is a woodworker and also recently became the owner of Allied Woodshop in the LA area. So excited to have Kirtan on and just get to chat with her, her journey into woodworking, and then becoming the owner of a workshop that offers classes and is kind of like a community working space. So really great time chatting with her. And I know you're going to enjoy this interview. Before we hop on into it with her, though, I want to give a big shout out and thanks to the patrons over on Patreon. So thank you so much, Lee at Lee Runyon, Annette 513 Woodworks, Katie Thompson, Women of Woodworking, Kevin Lefty's Woodshop, Christy Twisted Twine, Jeremy Spees, Sammy Go Sammy Lee, Rachel Moody Makes, Bonnie toolmomstore.com, Laura Oakley Soap Company, Brandy Studio Obey, Lee the Rainbow Carver, Ellen Little Bear Furniture, and Ethan Carter Designs. Thank you all so very much for your continued and ongoing support, helping to produce 2 episodes a week every week. If you would like to get your name added to this list, you most certainly can. Just head on over to patreon.com/crafting a revolution. And no matter what tier you pick, you will get your name added to the start of the list that I think on every podcast. So with no further ado, here's Kirtan Tom, and let's get into it with her. Okay, well, I will say that I always like to start by asking my guests to introduce themselves. So would you do that for me?
So I'm Kirtan Tom, and I'm a woodworker, and recently I've become the owner and director of Allied Woodshop in Los Angeles. I was renting space here as a woodworker for about 2 years before I ended up buying the shop, because the previous owner, who's amazing, Laura Zahn, she decided to move to Denver. So I got the opportunity. I think she told me that she was moving and gonna sell the shop, and about an hour later, I asked her if I could buy it. So I'm that was just in June, and right now it's October. So it's only been a few months. So I'm very new to running a wood shop, but it's been a lot of fun. I started woodworking in Brooklyn. I think it was 2015. So it really hasn't been that long. But I started at another woman-owned shop called Makeville, run by a really cool woman named Robin Mierswa. And yeah, I think I was working as a nanny at that point, just as something to do. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a great fit. And I took a woodworking class, and then immediately it was like, I'm done being a nanny. Thanks, but I'm gonna go in this direction now. And then I took every other class. And then I became a shop monitor at Makeville and was able to gain access to the shop that way and all the equipment. Mm-hmm. And by becoming a monitor, just was able to immerse myself in, I just kind of like dove into the deep end, I guess, in learning about tools and safety, and helping other people with projects and problem solving, and just dealing with other people in the wood shop and learning about other woodworkers. And then I was deciding, like, okay, this is what I really want to do. I started putting some energy into that, and then I got pregnant and had a kid. So that put things on pause. And then I started going back to the wood shop when she was a few months old, and started building up my time there again. And then we decided to move across the country to Los Angeles. So that's when I found Allied, and it's been a really wonderful place to be, very supportive, a beautiful space. And now that I bought the shop, I think I'm here for a while.
I would hope so. Well, first of all, I want to say that's like pretty amazing that like your introduction, not only was your introduction through like a woman-owned shop, but like you found 2 women-owned shop spaces.
I know.
And then like now you are the woman-owned shop space.
Right.
That's pretty cool.
It was really cool. I joined the Women of Woodworking and Furniture Society Affinity group meeting last month, and Robin, the shop owner at Makeville, she was on the meeting, and she introduced herself like, "Hi, I'm the owner of Makeville." And then I introduced myself next. I said, I took my first class at Makeville, and now I'm on Allied. And then another woman introduced herself and said, "Hi, I took my first class at Allied." So that was before I was here at the shop.
Was that Mira by any chance? Mira Crow?
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually how I found out about Allied, was like I had Mira on as a podcast guest. And she talked about Allied. And so that's how I found out about it. And now that I've talked with you, I'll probably be reaching out to Robin of Makesville, since I found out about her through here.
Yeah, that would be cool. It's like following the chain all the way back.
Yeah. And I belong to the affinity group. It's always one of those things, though. The time that it is like bedtime where I'm at for kiddos, and so it makes it difficult to participate in those meetings, but I hope to, at least on occasion.
Yeah. So, how old are your kids?
Mine are, my oldest is 8, and my youngest will be 6 in January. So yes, I am definitely past the 3-year-old stage, thank goodness. Though my 5-year-old is giving me a run for my money at 5. So yeah.
Right. I mean, they just keep getting more and more energy, and then being able to do more on their own. So that's a recipe for trouble.
It is. And the assertion of like independence, which I both like applaud and value. But when they're like adamant, no, I'm not doing that, it's kind of that's the moment where I'm like, no independence. You must put your shoes on and get dressed, and we must go to school like now.
Right. So you have to brush your teeth.
Yes. Exactly. I want to take a step back and, kind of start at the beginning of like, where'd you grow up, and what were you interested in, kind of in your younger years?
Sure. So I'm kind of back now where I grew up, in the San Gabriel Valley, around Los Angeles.
Okay.
And I always loved doing arts and crafts, those kinds of things. My parents would just buy me giant boxes full of popsicle sticks, and I would start by building replicas of all the things that were pictured on the box. And my friend next door was always like, "How did she do that?" Well, it's right there on the box. Like, there are only so many things you can do with a popsicle stick. They're all the same size. And then I would just kind of get some glue and some popsicle sticks and just sit there for hours and hours and make things. And then, if I had glitter or paper or paint to add to it, all the better. And my parents, they saw that I was really interested in those things. They put me in art classes. They always asked what I wanted to do. So from elementary school, I was always taking extra art classes somewhere else. I remember taking like a cartooning class when I was like 10. And I made this little cartoon about my dog. I think it was mostly just learning how to draw. I took a lot of art and drawing classes. Growing up in Pasadena, I was able to take some classes when I was in high school at the art center. They had a program for high school students. And also I took some drawing classes and painting classes at PCC. So there's always a lot of extra stuff available that was pretty affordable too. And I think when I was younger, at some point, I decided I wanted to be a tattoo artist. Because I think somebody said like, oh, the way you draw, it looks like tattoos. So I was like, okay, I'll just lean into that. So I was always drawing things and imagining myself as a tattoo artist. And then I got older and I realized that I don't actually want tattoos myself. Thought that would be a weird thing to be a tattoo-less tattoo artist. But then I went to college at UC Santa Cruz. I knew I wanted to study art, and I ended up in their printmaking program.
Okay.
They have a really wonderful printmaking program where you can do woodblock prints, intaglio, lithography, silk screening, just like all of that. And so for a few years, I just did all of those classes and spent all of my time in the print shop, and never really knew what I was going to do with that later. So, I mean, I think like a lot of people who graduate from college or who graduate with degrees in the humanities, I was like, well, what now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I got a job doing customer service, just kind of got a job doing whatever. I knew that I didn't want to pursue a career as a visual artist, because I never felt like I had the drive to make that happen. I wasn't the type of person who was just like bursting with images that I needed to get out there. It didn't feel necessary. But I knew that I wanted to travel. And so after college, I got married and we decided to go to Japan. So taught English for 4 years. It was amazing. It was super fun. Have you ever been?
I have not. I will say I actually have never left the United States. Is definitely high on the list. And our oldest, our son, just announced last week. He's like, we need to go to Canada. We touch Canada. We should go to Canada. I was like, I am down for Canada. Let's go to Canada. So I'm certain at some point, I don't know. I know even my youngest would be able to travel at this point, but obviously because of the pandemic, that kind of puts a little hindrance on travel plans to some degree, but I'm sure we will travel. My son wants to go to Japan as well. He wants to go to Japan for Pokemon World. My wife
Yes.
wants to go. Yes.
Uh-huh.
So yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I recommend it. It was a ton of fun being able to travel in Japan and just be there. We were there for 4 years, and it it was so much fun. It was hard to tear ourselves away, but it never really felt like real life.
Mhm.
Like, it felt like we were doing, you know, your first job out of college.
Yeah.
So we came back, and then we spent a year just like living with my parents, trying to figure out what to do next. And then my husband decided he wanted to go to law school, so he studied, took the LSAT, and applied to schools, and then we ended up moving to New York.
Okay. So that's how you ended up in Brooklyn.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Um, and then the nanny, right? And then the woodworking.
Right.
What inspired you to even take a class at a woodworking class?
I'm not entirely sure. So when before we went to New York and I was just hanging out here trying to figure out what to do, I got a job doing in-home behavioral intervention therapy for kids with autism spectrum disorders. And um, I got that job. I mean, I'd done a lot of various childcare in my life, a lot of babysitting, and I was a summer camp counselor and stuff like that. Um, but I got the job doing behavioral intervention therapy because they were looking for somebody who could work with the Japanese family.
Mm.
And my Japanese was still pretty good at that time. It's degraded a lot since, but so I was able to work with the Japanese family. I didn't really even need very much Japanese. They spoke like way more English than I spoke Japanese. But so I did that, and then I was trying to figure out what to do, and I was looking into carpentry programs. Um, I feel like there's one thing that stuck in my mind since college, and that was one of the guys who was in the printmaking program with me. After graduating, he told me he was going to apprentice with his uncle, who was a woodworker. And that stuck with me. I remember feeling extremely envious. And I didn't know why. I had never done any woodworking or any construction or anything like that, aside from, whatever crafts I did. And it just kept popping up in my head every few years. So when I was looking for something to do, I thought, should I look into carpentry? Do I want to like build large scale? There's always people want to do like kitchens or houses or, finished carpentry type stuff. But whenever I would look into those programs, I never felt like they would be very welcoming. I always felt like it would be a real uphill climb, and I didn't feel like dealing with that. And so when I was in New York, my husband was in law school, so he had like a built-in social group that he was always with, and I was kind of adrift. So I was pretty lonely, and looking for lots of different things to do. And like being a nanny didn't really give me people of my age to hang out with. So I'm not sure how I even came across it, but I found the class online at Makeville and decided to sign up for the intro class, and day one was like, oh, like this is it.
It came back to those popsicle sticks, right? And that's what it came back.
I guess so. It just felt right. It felt like I understood what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And everything just like clicked into place. And so then I was like, all of the classes. Go into debt? Sure.
That's right. Hey, Pod Squad. So today's episode is brought to you in part by Rockport Works, which offers safety footwear that suits people's occupation and lifestyle by incorporating performance, safety, and style into every shoe and boot. Each shoe features a slip-resistant outsole and a toe cap varying between steel, alloy, and composite. Other features such as electrical hazard and shock protection are also available depending on your safety needs. Rockport Works delivers extraordinary technology-based comfort using the latest advances in construction and design to create both modern and classic shoe styles. So whatever the outfit, they've got you covered. Their goal is to support your style, to take you from work to leisure and everything in between. So try Rockport Works for yourself and change the world without changing your shoes. Now, they sent me a pair of True Strides to try on. So I have several different workbook boots that different companies have sent me to try. And so when they offered to send me something, I'm like, you know what? I want a shoe style because I have plenty of boots. So I had them send me the True Stride, which is a slip-on work shoe. It consists of a moisture wicking micro mesh liner and a leather upper, and EVA cushion, removable footbed, slip resistant, Pro Walker rubber outsole, and a side zipper for easier on and off. They offer sizes 6 through 12 in both medium and in both M and W widths, which I got wide because I got wide feet. I will tell you, for me, I ordered like the size that I typically order, and they run just a little bit big on me. But you know what? I actually really love that because it's super easy on, off, slip on, walk into the workshop, slip off as soon as I walk in the door. And they're definitely becoming my go-to shoe. And it gets me out of using like my regular tennies out in the shop when I don't want to put on the full work boot. So definitely becoming my go-to shoe. This one comes with a steel toe cap, electrical hazard protection to protect me from electrical shock and slip resistance, and it meets all ASTM safety standards and requirements. So this shoe also features their True Tech technology, which is an extra pad found in the heel to absorb shock and add long-lasting cushioning. And let me tell you, it works. My garage floor is cement, so when I spend long days out there in the shop, it's my lower back is not hurting near as bad as what it was without that little extra cushion. So definitely go check out Rockport Works, and thank you for being a sponsor for today's episode. Given that space is ran by a woman, like I'm just curious what the makeup was in the class. And it's a big city, so that tends to lend to maybe a more diverse crowd.
I do think that most of my classmates were men. And the first class I ever took, the teacher was a man.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody was very welcoming.
Mm-hmm.
And because I felt right away like I just understood what was going on,
Mm-hmm.
I signed up for more classes. And I think my second instructor was a woman. One of my very favorite instructors, Kate. Oh my God, I keep thinking of her Instagram handle. Her last name is definitely not Schmate, but I'd have to think for a minute to remember what her last name is. But she was just such an inviting and encouraging instructor. She was really laid back. There was no like machismo or agenda in her instruction style. And I remember students would ask her, like, hey, can I do this? What would happen if I did this? And her response was always, well, let's find out. It was never like, that's dumb. You can't do that because of these reasons. Like there are rules you have to follow.
Right.
It's all just like, let's see, there's room for experimentation. Why not? Why don't we try it? And I think at that time, maybe about half of the instructors were women at the shop. And Makeville is a community woodshop model. So they have classes and then they have shop time that you can rent by the hour.
Okay.
So there are a lot of different people that come through the shop. And because of that, they have shop monitors who just kind of make sure that people are respecting the space. Things get cleaned up, if a blade needs to get changed or stuff like that. Just take care of pretty simple shop maintenance. I think at that time, there were several different shop monitors and most of them were women.
Okay.
So there was always a non-male presence in the shop. And Robin was often around working on things, developing new programs and like rearranging the shop. And one of my instructors, when I was getting close to like the end of their their class catalog, one of my teachers was like, what are you going to do next? And I thought, like, I don't know. Maybe I have to go to like a woodworking school or something. And he goes, don't do that. Just stay here, be a shop monitor, and just practice. And that was really great advice because if somebody had told me like, yeah, you got to go to a woodworking program, like a longer form thing, then I probably wouldn't have done it. I mean, I was married and my partner was in New York and couldn't leave. He was in school. I don't think I would have wanted to just leave. Plus, it probably would have been way more expensive than we could have afforded.
Yeah.
And so I just stuck around and I asked if I could be a shop monitor, and Robin said yes. And then the shop manager at that time like moved out of the country, and I volunteered to fill all of his time slots. So I didn't become the shop manager, but like I was monitoring during all of his time slots where he was there. So I went from being the newest shop monitor to the one who was there all the time. I just, built projects out of other people's scrap.
Right. I was going to say, yeah, I'm sure the benefit with that is, so much more shop time. Right. And yeah. Moving to back to LA, like when you moved, it sounds like you went looking with intention to find kind of a similar shop space. Did you visit any others? Or, I mean, like, how'd you come across, I guess, Allied?
Right. So it's funny. The woodworking community is fairly small. And I was looking for shop space before moving. I think I was just doing some online searches for places where I could rent a bench, or I knew I wanted to do full time. And there were pretty much no options besides Allied. Like there's Community Woodshop LA, which is a little bit more like the Makeville model, where you can do hourly. They have subscriptions, but I think they cap out at around 40 hours a month. And I'm like, I want to do 40 hours a week.
Right.
So I came across Allied's website, and I was talking with people at Makeville, some of the other monitors, and one of the guys there, Noah, he was like, oh, well, you should check out Allied. I'm like, I've been looking at their website. He goes, I was benchmates with Laura Zahn up at Krenov. So like, let me give you an introduction. So I emailed with Laura back and forth, and I moved and kind of didn't think about it for a couple months. But then I got back in touch with Laura, and I even she was looking for a new shop tech, and I applied for that position, and I didn't get it, which I am now very thankful for. Because we have the best shop tech around. Martin Hernandez. He's just like a wonderkind in shop stuff, in machines. He says, like, if he can't fix it, then it's broke. It's true. So I didn't get the shop position, and I remember I was kind of bummed about that and like sulking a little bit, but then I realized, oh, well, I still want to rent space.
Yeah.
So I did that and came here, and I think at that time there had been like a big exodus from Allied Woodshop of previous members. They went off, a bunch of them went off and started their own shop. So I was like the only one here for a couple of months, which was kind of nice because I got to get acquainted with the shop and the machines without feeling like anybody was watching me.
Right. Yep.
And then slowly more people started joining, and it just became this wonderful community. And Laura really became a mentor for me, especially after I decided to buy the shop. Like, she spent so much time helping me and teaching me things. So yeah, I mean, that's how I ended up at Allied.
Okay. When you said, you wanted to do it full time, I mean, were you making and selling pieces? Were you running it as a business, I guess, or was it like mainly for yourself?
So I was trying to build a base of customers for making and selling custom furniture.
Okay.
Pretty difficult business model, as many people have found out. Also, I discovered I don't necessarily like communicating with customers all that much. Some people are really great to work with, and then some people are very difficult, or maybe their style or their personality just doesn't mesh with mine all that well.
Yep.
So that wasn't working out quite the way I had wanted it to. And I had started feeling like I needed a change, like maybe try to partner with somebody to increase the scope and the volume of work that I was doing. But then the opportunity to buy the shop came up, and it was just perfect timing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, the model of doing custom furniture is just
right.
I mean, the reality is you have to have people who have disposable income to find you,
right,
to actually make it be something you can make a living off of.
Exactly. It's not like you can, you ask your friends, your non-woodworker friends, like, how much would you spend on a dining table? And they're like, I don't know, $800. Like, Cool. You can't even like find that at Target. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so, and I'm with you. I'm not, and unless that client is willing to be like, okay, this is the type of object I want, and you have all creative freedom on how you make it, which I mean, I have had, some clients do that. I don't work well with others when it comes to,
Which is kind of why we're all doing this, right?
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I have had several people on the podcast who like really like their favorite part is interacting with customers and then being
That's
able to make something, that person truly loves and passes down. And I'm like, I understand the concept. I am not that person. I'm just not that person. Now, if I could find the people who just really enjoy what I make and buy it for what it is, then
right.
that's my ideal.
Just like have a showroom,
Yep.
make a bunch of stuff and have people come in and buy it.
Yep.
That sounds fun.
And it sounds easy when you say it like that, right? But
Yeah, exactly.
It's like so not.
Not even find a space with, great foot traffic that you can rent affordably and
yes. Like
fill it with a bunch of furniture that you spend your money making without any guarantee of income.
Yes. I also like, so I want to dive in on this. You said within an hour of learning, you asked if you could be the one to buy it.
Yeah.
So you do have a spouse. I'm curious.
I did call him.
How that if there was any it doesn't sound like there was much hesitation if you were able to jump on it right away.
Yeah, my partner, he is the most supportive person. I couldn't do this without him or without my mom, because she did so much childcare last year during the pandemic before my daughter could go to school. So she's in preschool now, and that's wonderful. But like during the first lockdown and then like the next year, I had to figure out how to work and still have childcare because my partner was working from home and had a full-time job, so he couldn't always be watching our child at the same time. Also, that was like our only real income. I don't think I made any money for like 6 months during the pandemic. And so my mom, she started doing a lot of the childcare for us, which allowed me to go back into work more and more. And, we've managed to find a balance where I was working enough to be really fulfilled, but also still getting to spend a lot of time with my family. And throughout all of this, my partner was always encouraging me to like work as much as you want. He knows that when I'm not working, I'm really unhappy and unpleasant. And so he's like, work as much as you want. Like you're running your own business. Like even when it was just doing custom furniture, like you've got to spend time on this. This is what you love to do. So he always supported me. And when Laura told me that she was moving and selling the shop, I called him immediately and was like, so Laura is selling the shop. And I think even before I finished my thought, even before I suggested it, he's like, are you going to buy it? And I was like, I'm thinking about it. Like, is it crazy? He was like, no, just like, okay, let's talk about the financials a little bit. And okay, I think we can do that. and we've been wanting to buy a house. So we're like, well, this will set this back. And like, who cares? Much rather own a business than a house.
Mhm.
So let's go for it. And so then I told Laura, like, can I buy the shop? Like, I'm really interested. And then I think within 24 hours, I had made an offer. And then within a week, she told me that she accepted my offer, and we just moved forward from there.
So I have to ask, and I can't remember, somebody asked me this actually. Asked me if it was a thing to like buy somebody else's like woodworking business. And I said, yeah, it's absolutely like a thing like that you can do.
Right.
It depends on what happens. So I have to ask like ballpark, what does that cost? You can give like a range.
Right. Because I feel like I'm now thinking about like the legality of the paperwork. Yeah. I'm pretty sure we both signed an NDA.
Yeah.
So I'll say it is, I bought the shop for under $150,000.
Okay. Not as bad as what I thought. Because like that's a lot of equipment and stuff.
Yeah.
So
space we went over like the value of the equipment. So the space is rented.
Okay.
So I didn't buy any real estate.
The building.
Yeah, that would have, because it's a factor of 10.
Well, yeah, I'm like, you're in LA, so
yeah, I mean, it's like I'd have to spend $1 million on $1 million or $3 million on a building. Yeah, it's like more expensive than buying a house.
Mm-hmm.
So luckily I didn't have to do that. The space is rented in this beautiful building. We're on the 10th floor.
Which is interesting.
It is. Our residents are very patient with getting things up to the 10th floor. Plus, the elevators in our building are all manual.
Excellent.
Yeah. So like you can't just use the elevator whenever you want to.
Right.
There has to be a person there to operate it. So there's a bit of a learning curve in working here, but it's totally worth it. We have amazing, like huge windows, lots of light. We're in downtown Los Angeles, so we've got a view. There's like, also there's no parking here, so you have to find parking, pay for parking, but that's just kind of what goes along with working downtown.
Right. Well, and I mean, yeah, the people who are there are going to be used to that, right? Like, I didn't live in LA, didn't even live in San Diego, but I lived in northern San Diego County.
Okay.
My wife and I did for like almost 5 years. So, I understand the property value in those areas, and B, the fact that you pay for parking everywhere. Like,
yes,
there is no free parking. And that's just the expectation once you like get used to it, which was odd getting used to coming from the Midwest, which every place has parking and it's not even a thing, So yeah. With the running the shop space, I mean, it sounds like obviously because you bought it, but does it fits the desire that you have for like working in that space, but without having to be reliant on selling what you make?
Yeah. I think you hit on it. It also like satisfies my need to organize and plan. Like at one point I considered being an event coordinator. And I even coordinated somebody's wedding. I think that must have been in like the year between Japan and New York. And I realized like that was a lot of event coordination was dealing with catering. And I didn't like that. So like, I'll get my organization fixed somewhere else. And we have a community coordinator at the shop. That's her title, but she does a lot of the correspondence, a lot of the emails back and forth between students and instructors and job inquiries, things like that. So I don't think I would be able to do this job without having somebody do that, because I can barely keep up with the emails that I get
Sure.
just for myself.
Yeah.
Which is, 10 times more emails than I was getting when I was before I ran the shop. But I discovered that what I really love to do is program development. So I love thinking of like new classes, how we can get new people involved in teaching at the shop, or what kinds of things we can offer. So I'm focused a lot right now on developing a whole series of classes to roll out in 2022 around building a home shop. So we're in LA, there are tons and tons of people, but also it's a big sprawl and lots of people have garages and, space for a home shop. It's not like New York where, this would be ridiculous. But yeah, so we're going to do a bunch of classes where you come in and you spend time in the shop and you build something. And the thing that you build, you can take home and you put in your home shop and it becomes a piece of equipment for you or a tool. So for all those people who like want to take woodworking classes, but also want to invest in having their own workspace, this is kind of a 2-for-1. You come and you do the class and you get a piece of equipment, like, build a workbench, build a tool cabinet, build a hand plane, make a mallet, do tabletop mocks on vise, something like that, all those things. And I also want to develop a whole catalog of like half-day lectures that we can do, kind of as like continuing education opportunities. So soon we're going to have Sarah Watlington from Offerman Woodshop come in and teach a model building class.
Excellent.
Yeah, so little things that don't take up a whole lot of equipment, but are really useful skills.
Hey makers, today's episode is sponsored in part by toolmomstore.com. At toolmomstore.com, you can find any and all tool-based merchandise for all genders, all sizes. They've got mugs, they've got shirts, all kinds of cool stuff. I have one of the shirts myself that has the hashtag woodworker on it. And I also have a couple of the mugs that define what and who is a tool chick. So super excited with the merchandise that I have. I know that you will be satisfied as well. And also great discount for those of you who listen to the podcast. At checkout, if you enter the code MAKERMOM, you will get a 20% discount off any of the merchandise that you buy. So that's just toolmomstore.com. All right, let's head back into the action. Yeah, just let me know when you want to fly me out for some power carving classes.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if we have flying out money right now. But whenever you want to take a vacation in Los Angeles, it's not good to be here.
We do plan on going to California. That is actually the place we have decided, because our oldest was born in La Jolla.
Beautiful place.
Yes, and so he has decided that once the pandemic is over, that is the first place where that will be the kids' first airplane ride, and our first big trip is going to be to Southern California. So I'll be in the area at some point.
Great.
Yes. Packing the tools, though, is a whole other conversation.
Right.
So you've got kind of like you guys do classes, you do membership,
Yeah.
To the space, rented space, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You brought up about it being like a very kind of like open and welcoming space. I guess I wanted to give you a little bit of time to just speak to that aspect. Like, what does that look like when you say that?
That's something that we're always just trying to be aware of.
Mm-hmm.
How can we do better? Like, what opportunities are there for us to do better?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you look at fine woodworking and it's all white dudes.
Yep.
You look at most like images of woodworking or tools, and it's a lot of white dudes. So we do try to advertise the fact that we are a woman-owned shop. And when I seek out new instructors,
Mm-hmm.
One of my main considerations is like, how can they add something new to our space, not just like what their skills are.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be the best woodworker in order to teach an intro class and help people feel safe around the machines.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can represent a community that hasn't traditionally been welcomed into this space,
Mm-hmm.
then you can show other people who might be hesitant that, hey, this really is a space where you can come into. So just trying to get as many kind of non-male teachers and non-white teachers as we can has been a focus of mine. We still do have white male teachers, and they've been really great members of our shop. But we guarantee that in each full group class, there's at least one woman instructor. And our biggest selling class, the intro class, the one most people come through.
Mm-hmm.
Our main instructor is this wonderful woman, Cleo Wild from Offerman Woodshop.
Mm-hmm.
And she just has the most welcoming, bright personality, and is like a wonderful ambassador to what the world of woodworking could be.
Mm-hmm.
It's more inclusive. So that's what we hope to continue to work on. But there are limitations to what, like, I have to always check myself on like what I can do and what's appropriate for me to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like I can throw up a class and be like, woodworking for the Latinx community, and I'm going to teach it. It's like, I'm not part of that community. So first I've got to get the people in who can teach a class like that, and are interested in it, and like have the right skills and the right personality to make people feel welcome in the space. So I have to do like the very foundational work first before I can like get my head in the clouds and think of like this wonderful rainbow that we can have here. Like,
right. Yep. I actually appreciate that you mentioned images when you were talking about, kind of representation, because I was actually thinking about that. I was preparing a presentation for an online festival that was for women only. And as I was going through like stock images, I have like a subscription to one of those stock image sites so that I don't always have to have my own content available for that kind of stuff. And so I was looking for pictures of woodworkers, and I only found like a single picture of a woman.
Oh my gosh.
Even, even when it was like just the hands, right? Like just the hands being shown, you can still tell the difference between like a man's hands and a woman's hands. And I won't even, I mean, and regardless of gender involved, it was all white.
Yeah.
And so I even thought like, man, I feel like I could make a killing if I sold some stock imagery just off of like people of color and women, like doing trades and woodworking and stuff. Like, to your point, I mean, like I wouldn't have even felt, and I still didn't feel super comfortable. I went in and ended up using mostly my own pictures because, I wasn't finding what I needed. But I'm like, especially if I was a woman of color, like, and my only option was a picture of a white woman, like woodworking, how comfortable would I have felt with that? Probably not very.
Right.
So yeah, it goes beyond just, and it's been brought up, like the furniture and cabinet making, magazine and publications and stuff. Sometimes when I'm feeling spicy, I'll comment on one of their posts, like, when are you going to have some more women or people of color on the cover? Let's try that. And usually they'll respond, sure, send us some names. And then I just say, go to my podcast feed and have at it. There's like 200 of them. Feel free to contact any of them. But, yeah, I think maybe that's our next career. We can start taking pictures of people. And
yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that. Actually, I just remembered, because of what you said, somebody did approach us with the idea, like a photographer who makes and sells stock imagery, asked about coming in and taking photos of people, of diverse backgrounds.
Yeah.
In working with tools and in wood shop and stuff. So more of those would exist if I remembered who that was and could follow through. Maybe I can ask Laura, because I think the conversation was with her.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, and then I ask myself, like, when we do classes, we ask people to sign a photo release form so that we can use their images from the classes with them in it, on our website and social media. And so sometimes, like, we have to kind of check ourselves, being like, are we using too many photos of like just the women of color, or are we really like being kind of misrepresentative? Are we overcorrecting?
Maybe, but I think that speaks a lot, and that actually can make a space feel safe for more than just women of color, other BIPOC people, other marginalized groups. Like, seeing a space have that as a representation, I think makes it seem like, okay, that's probably a safe space for me, even if I don't identify like within that group.
That's true. Seeing pictures of people of color doing woodworking makes me feel more comfortable.
Right.
Even though I'm half white, half Chinese, like seeing a picture of a Black woodworker is very comforting.
Yes.
Makes
Yeah.
me feel like I will be more welcome.
Right.
And even as a person who owns a wood shop and feels very comfortable in this space, and like even I feel hesitant to do things like go to, I don't know, Lee Nielsen presentations for tools and stuff. I'm like, I don't know, like I don't really want to. It's a lot of energy.
Right.
To space that I assume is going to be full of white dudes.
Yep.
And I have every right to be there, and they probably want me to be there. But it's just like a lot of mental and emotional energy to deal with what that feels like to be there.
Yeah, I just had this conversation with somebody else on an interview before you today, which was like even talking about outside of the woodworking world, like basically any space that I enter into, I have to like take a beat and try to figure out, am I safe to reveal myself in this space? You know, am I safe to say wife? I don't know.
Right.
And that can be exhausting at times, like to juggle that. And to your point, like if it's not something that's required, I'm more likely to just be like, I ain't going because I don't want to have, like, I just don't want to like deal with like, what is that? What could that potentially be like?
Right.
You know, so that's where I say like, yes, if I saw a picture to like your example of a Lee Nielsen, like, you know, exhibit type thing, and in that picture was a Black woman there participating, I would feel like more comfortable. Like,
yeah, me too.
That space.
Right. I'm taking some classes right now through UCLA Extension on small business management, and we had to do a profile on an entrepreneur that's not somebody super famous, but maybe somebody in your industry. And I decided to write one on Sarah Marriage. She started Woo. And one of the questions in the assignment was like, what does this person see? What does this person understand that others don't? And so I wrote like that she understands that in order to invite a new group of people into an industry, you have to create a new kind of space. You can't just ask them to fit inside what already exists. You can't just say the words like, you're invited, and have it be true suddenly.
I chuckle, and I'll probably get myself in trouble with this, but that's okay. It's my podcast. And I chuckle with the everybody's welcome here line of thought, because like pretty much every Christian church out there says everybody is welcome. Right. And I know that's for a literal fact that no, they're not. Or we're welcomed if we're willing to change, or we're welcome.
Right.
Like
a lot of conditionals after that statement.
Yes. So I think that tends to be a broader example of what you were just talking about, recognizing that, yeah, you know, like people, I think everybody deserves a safe space, and that safe space is going to look different for every group of people.
Yeah, there's a lot of like asking other people to change to fit into this space that already exists. Like all you have to do is gain the confidence and show up. All you have to do is ignore the trauma of, the last several generations.
Right.
And like, then you'll,
You'll be perfect. Yeah.
right. Like, it'll be welcoming. You'll see. You just ignore all those experiences you had where it wasn't. Instead of really reflecting on, well, like, how can we change?
Mhm.
So that's something that I've been focusing on at Allied. Like, what can we do? What is reasonable for us to do? Because this is still, it's my primary business, and
Mhm.
I do have to figure out how to make an income.
Yes.
But how can we change how we're representing our space, or how we're actually acting in our space, to make it actually welcoming and safe, and not just saying that we are.
Right. Yep. Excellent. Well, we are actually at the end of our time together. So, though I'm sure we could keep talking about this subject.
Right. There's no end to it.
No. I do want to give you a chance to let people know how, they can find you and follow along with everything that you're up to.
Sure. So, the Allied website is www.alliedwoodshop.com, and it's Allied, ALLIED.
Mhm.
And our Instagram is the same. It's just at Allied Woodshop. I am at KT Woodworks. I think there's an S on the end of there. Can never actually remember. And you can find my website and the others, the bios of the other people on our team, like our amazing shop tech and our community coordinator and our residents and a lot of our instructors. You can find their bios and links to their websites and social media on the Allied Woodshop website. So if you're in the LA area, I would definitely encourage people to send an email if they want to come visit the shop. Our shop is not the easiest place to just kind of show up to, because we are on the 10th floor of a building in downtown Los Angeles, and my schedule is quite variable. So you don't know if anybody will actually be here. We don't have a phone number because we don't have a phone. So email is the best way to get in touch with us. I do try to check our Instagram messages occasionally, but sometimes I'll go a whole week without even opening Instagram. I will eventually get back to you, probably. But yeah, I mean, if you're a woodworker in the LA area, you're interested in maybe teaching some classes, doing some lectures, doing any sort of reaching out, community building, we would love to hear from you. I think that's the reason to own a community woodshop, is to further the community. So, let's get in contact.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me today. I really enjoyed it. Thank you, Katie. Me too. Okay, Pod Squad. Again, that was Kirtan Tom, who is, a woodworker and now the owner and runs the Allied Workshop in LA. I'll include the links on how you can follow along with her and Allied and see everything that they're up to in the show notes for today's episode. So where can you find those show notes, you may ask? Check the description in your podcast app, or if you're watching this on YouTube, check the description box down below. And lastly, you can head on over to freemanfurnishings.com/podcast and find today's episode along with all the previous episodes. If you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure that you Subscribe and hit that follow so you can get notifications when a new episode is released. And head on over to iTunes, Spotify, leave a 5-star review, let people know why you love the podcast so much. Head on over to Instagram and follow along at Crafting a Revolution and get a little bit more interaction there. And when I am not interviewing amazing guests and producing podcast episodes, you can find me designing and making furniture and other home decor over at freemanfurnishings.com and at Freeman Furnishings across all the social media platforms like Instagram and TikTok and YouTube and LinkedIn and Pinterest, and I don't even know all of them. But I am active on a daily basis over on Instagram and close to daily on TikTok at Freeman Furnishings on both. So come on over and say hi. It's the middle of the week. I hope you are having a great week so far. And as always, let's go craft a revolution.